Boat in tears as Oates hospital report drops. Will Oates survive? Fans worldwide hold their breath. The sterile white walls of the Bangkok General Hospital seemed to swallow every sound, amplifying the echo of footsteps and hushed whispers. Cameras outside flashed like lightning, but inside, the world was painfully still. Boat sat hunched in a plastic chair outside the ICU, his trembling hands covering his face. When the report finally landed in his lap, those stark black letters on white paper, it felt like the entire earth tilted beneath him. Critical condition, internal bleeding, uncertain prognosis. The words blurred as tears poured down Boat's cheeks, hot and unstoppable. He had been strong all night, holding back sobs for the fans gathering outside, for Oates' parents clinging to each other in shock. But now, as the door to Oates' room swung shut, reality hit like a punch to the chest. The man he loved, his partner in music and in life, might not make it. The scene outside, a city on edge. Outside the hospital, hundreds of fans stood shoulder to shoulder, some holding candles, others clutching photos of Boat and Oates together. Social media burned with hashtags like #PrayForOates and #StayStrongBoat, trending worldwide within minutes. One fan live-streamed herself crying quietly, whispering, "Oates saved me with his music, please don't take him from us." Another group sang softly under their breath, their voices cracking as they sang his most famous ballad, each note trembling with fear. A sudden shout rippled through the crowd. Boat had appeared at the hospital's entrance, eyes red and swollen. Reporters surged forward, microphones thrust like spears. "Boat, is Oates awake? Did the doctors give you hope? Please, tell the fans something." Boat's lips quivered. He gripped the paper report so tightly it crumpled in his fist. "He's fighting." His voice broke. "Please, just keep praying." Flashback. The accident that changed everything. Only hours earlier, Boat and Oates had been laughing on their way back from a late-night studio session. Oates had been teasing Boat for hitting a flat note during a love song, and Boat, feigning offense, had playfully swerved the car. The world had been full of joy and inside jokes until a speeding truck appeared out of nowhere, headlights blinding, the screech of tires deafening. The next thing Boat remembered was waking up to chaos, shattered glass, the acrid smell of smoke, and Oates' lifeless body slumped against the seat. He had screamed his name until his throat bled. The ambulance ride was a blur of sirens and prayers, Boat's hands covered in Oates' blood as he whispered, "Stay with me, please," over and over. Inside the ICU, a fragile hope. The ICU was eerily quiet except for the steady beep of monitors. Oates' face was pale, almost translucent under the harsh fluorescent light, tubes and wires snaking across his chest. Boat approached the bed with shaky legs, fingers brushing the cold metal railing. "Oates," he whispered, voice cracking. "Do you hear me? It's me, it's Boat. You're not allowed to leave. We still have songs to write. We still have promises to keep." For a heartbeat, the monitor's rhythm spiked, a faint sign, but enough to make Boat gasp. He dropped to his knees, sobbing into the sheets, clutching Oates' hand as if his touch alone could anchor him back to life. Fans unite across the globe. Meanwhile, across the world, fans staged vigils. In Seoul, a crowd of thousands gathered outside a music venue where Boat and Oates had once performed, holding a banner that read, "Our hearts beat with Oates." In Los Angeles, strangers lit lanterns along the beach, each one carrying a handwritten message, "Come back to us." Even rival artists posted messages of support on social media. One post from a close industry friend went viral. "Boat and Oates' love has always inspired us. To see Boat cry like that tonight, it broke us all. Oates, if you can feel the world's love, hold on. Don't let go." The twist that shocked everyone. As dawn broke, the hospital lights flickered, a power surge that momentarily plunged the ICU into darkness. Panic flared, but the backup generator roared to life within seconds. When the lights returned, a nurse gasped. Oates' finger had twitched. Boat, still at his bedside, froze. Did you see that?" The doctors rushed in, checking monitors, whispering to each other. One doctor smiled faintly. "It's small, but it's something. He's still in there." Boat pressed his forehead to Oates' hand. "You're a fighter, Oates. Don't leave me now." The emotional confrontation. Later, Boat stepped outside for air and found Oates' younger brother pacing the hallway, fists clenched. "Why weren't you more careful?" he snapped, tears spilling. "You were supposed to protect him." Boat took the blow without defense, guilt carved deep into his features. "I know," he whispered. "If I could trade places with him, I would." Their confrontation was raw and heart-wrenching, but Oates' brother eventually broke down, collapsing into Boat's arms. They stood there, two broken men clinging to each other, united by love for the same person. A city holds its breath. The night stretched on, every second an eternity. In a small chapel inside the hospital, fans, family, and friends lit candles. The room was filled with whispered prayers in different languages, the smell of melted wax, and the faint hum of hope. Back in the ICU, Boat held Oates' hand and began softly singing their first hit song, the song that had brought them together. His voice wavered but grew steadier with each verse. A nurse later swore she saw a single tear slip from the corner of Oates' eye. Cliffhanger, a single word. At sunrise, as Boat drifted into an exhausted sleep beside the bed, a faint, raspy sound broke the silence. His eyes snapped open. Oates' lips trembled. "Boat!" The machines beeped faster. Boat shot up, grabbing his hand. I'm here, love." Oates' eyelids fluttered. His voice was barely a whisper, but it was enough to send shockwaves through the room. "Don't give up on us." The doctor rushed in, stunned. The fans outside erupted when the news leaked, a small miracle, a fragile victory. But the battle wasn't over. Oates was still critical, still fragile. Boat kissed his forehead, tears wetting Oates' skin. "I'll never give up. We'll fight this together." And as the sun rose over Bangkok, the world waited breathless for the next heartbeat, the next miracle. The rain had started again, a relentless drizzle that streaked the hospital windows like tears. Inside, the waiting area had become a vigil site. Dozens of Oates fans sat cross-legged on the floor, their phones dimly glowing as they sent out desperate prayers on social media. The air smelled faintly of coffee and antiseptic, but beneath that lingered something heavier, grief. Boat sat hunched on a chair near the ICU door, Oates' crumpled report in his hand. He had read it 100 times already, yet his eyes kept darting back to those three cruel words, critical but stable. His mind clung desperately to stable, even as critical burned like acid in his chest. A nurse gently approached, holding out a bottle of water. "You need to drink something," she said softly. Boat looked up, his red-rimmed eyes hollow. "If I drink, it feels like I'm admitting this is real." She hesitated, then left the bottle on the chair beside him. Boat didn't touch it. The flashback that haunts him. His head dropped into his hands, and the room blurred into a memory, the sound of shattering glass, the smell of smoke, and the taste of blood in his mouth. He remembered screaming Oates' name, begging him to open his eyes as the sirens wailed. His own wounds, small cuts on his arms and a swollen ankle, hadn't even registered. All he had cared about was the faint rise and fall of Oates' chest, the fragile proof that he was still alive. Now, hours later, the memory replayed in a cruel loop. He whispered to himself, "If I'd been faster, if I'd seen the truck sooner." Guilt gnawed at him, an unrelenting beast. Global fans turned desperation into action. Outside, the crowd had grown to nearly 1,000. The streets were lined with candles flickering against the wet pavement. A group of fans began handing out white ribbons, a symbol of hope. Another group streamed live on TikTok, chanting Oates' name like a prayer. In Tokyo, fans projected Boat and Oates' last concert performance onto a building wall, turning the city into a living tribute. In Paris, a small cafe closed early, its owners writing on a chalkboard outside, "For Oates, who sang to our hearts." Even the mayor of Bangkok tweeted, "Oates has brought joy to our city. Tonight, we stand with Boat and everyone praying for his recovery." The world had turned its gaze on one hospital room, united by music and love. Boat's breakdown behind closed doors. Back in the ICU, Boat was finally allowed to see Oates again. The room was dim, machines casting faint blue light over Oates' still form. The steady beep of the heart monitor was the only sound, but to Boat, it was the most beautiful rhythm in the world. He reached out and took Oates' cold hand. "Hey," he whispered, his voice cracking. "I'm still here." You're still here. But as he looked at the man who had once been all laughter and light, something inside him snapped. He sank to his knees beside the bed, clutching Oates' hand to his forehead. I can't do this without you, he sobbed. We promised, remember? We said we'd be together through everything. You can't break that promise now. His tears stained the sheets. For a moment, the monitor beeped faster, and Boat froze. He looked up, half believing Oates would open his eyes. But it was only a fluctuation. Still, it was enough to give him a fragile shard of hope. Family tensions boil over. Outside the room, Oates' younger brother paced like a caged animal. His eyes were bloodshot, his fists tight. When Boat emerged, the younger man stormed up to him. This is your fault, he hissed. You were driving. You were supposed to protect him. Boat flinched as if struck. He didn't fight back. I know, he whispered, his voice raw. I wish it had been me. The brother's anger cracked under the weight of shared grief. His shoulders slumped, and before he knew it, he was clutching Boat's shirt, crying against his chest. Boat hugged him back, both men breaking under the same unbearable fear. Fans sneak past security. In an extraordinary twist, 3 teenage fans slipped past security and quietly entered the chapel inside the hospital. They laid a bouquet of lilies on the altar and began to sing one of Oates' earliest songs. Their voices were shaky but beautiful, and soon, others joined in. Even hospital staff stopped to listen. The song drifted through the halls, reaching Boat's ears as he sat outside the ICU. For the first time all night, his lips curved into a faint, bittersweet smile. You hear that, Oates? He whispered. They're still singing for you. The moment the world held its breath. Around 3 a.m., the power surge hit. The lights flickered, monitors blipped, and a collective gasp swept through the ICU wing. Boat's heart stopped for a second until the backup power hummed to life. He turned back to Oates, tears streaming again. Don't scare me like that, he said hoarsely. Not again. Then, something small but extraordinary happened. Oates' fingers twitched against his palm. Boat froze, unsure if it was real. Doctor, he shouted, his voice echoing down the hallway. He moved. The doctor rushed in, checking Oates' vitals. It's a reflex, but it's a good sign, he said, smiling faintly. Boat's hope flared like a match in the dark. The media frenzy. Within minutes, news outlets across the world blasted headlines. Oates shows first sign of movement, fans celebrate a flicker of hope. Outside the hospital, the crowd erupted into cheers, some hugging strangers, others dropping to their knees in relief. Boat stepped outside briefly, greeted by a sea of tear-streaked faces and flashing cameras. He raised a trembling hand. His fighting, he said. The crowd roared, and for a moment, the grief hanging over the city lifted. Boat's private vow. Later, Boat returned to Oates' bedside. He pulled a chair close and laid his head on the mattress, still holding Oates' hand. His voice was soft, but each word carried the weight of his heart. We're going to get through this. I'll sit here all night, all week if I have to. I'll sing you every song we've ever written until you wake up. I'll tell you every stupid joke you love. I'll never let go of your hand again. He began humming the melody of their first duet, his voice breaking but steady enough to fill the room. The sound was fragile yet powerful, a love song turned lifeline. Around the world, hope grows. In New York, fans held up phones with Oates' music playing in Times Square. In Manila, a church bell rang for him. In Bangkok, monks arrived at the hospital to chant blessings outside the ICU. Social media became a flood of memories, clips of Oates laughing during interviews, fan art of him smiling beside Boat, and a single message repeated across languages, "Come back to us." One fan posted a video of a little girl drawing Oates and Boat holding hands, her voice trembling as she said, "He has to wake up. Boat needs him." The video racked up millions of views in an hour. The cliffhanger grows. As the sky began to lighten outside the hospital, Boat shifted in his chair, exhaustion finally tugging at his eyelids. But even as sleep threatened to take him, he didn't let go of Oates' hand. He pressed a kiss to Oates' knuckles. "I'm right here. Don't you dare leave me." And then, a whisper. So faint Boat thought he had imagined it. But when he looked up, Oates' lips had moved, just barely. Boat. Boat's heart slammed against his ribs. I'm here, he cried. I'm right here, love. The monitor beeped faster, steady and sure. Outside, the first rays of dawn touched the horizon, painting the sky with the promise of another day. Fans worldwide, many still awake, felt the shift in the air of fragile, powerful hope. The fight was far from over. But for the first time in a night of despair, Boat knew, Oat wasn't done fighting. And neither was he.